Kenyans on Reddit. Who is that classmate you just can't forget? Story 1. There's this one special classmate named Michael Mbogo. Man, I don't know where you went. It's been 10 years. Mbogo was the funniest, most supportive, creative, and patient human being I ever came across. I remember when I couldn't get to 300 marks in a class where the majority were jealous and wouldn't revise with you to help you improve. Mbogo became my teacher, setting exams for me, revising them with me until I managed 400 marks from a 280 marks level. In a country where we needed to rise in arms against each other to suit tribal hatred, he became my brother, my father, and my guardian. I aimlessly searched Mbaka kwa Google Jamani. Where did you go? This still breaks my heart. Story 2. I had a classmate who was the best in maths in primary school. I was the brightest student in class, but wasn't performing very well in maths. This guy taught us maths to the point we all started getting almost 100. We were very close and we'd talk of how when we grew up, we'd buy land and build houses close to each other. After primary school though, we went our separate ways. I joined a national school and he went to a provincial school in a different province back then. The family also moved. I kept wondering where this guy went, wrote letters to him, but for years he never responded. I met him about 3 years ago. Of course I approached him with that excitement of meeting an old friend. Turned out he had completely moved on. I could tell he wasn't as excited as I was to meet him. Exchanged numbers obviously, tried to call him, but he would never pick my calls. Realized that the guy had moved on kabisa and gave up. I'm not saying this is the case with any of your friends, but just limit your expectations. Only change is constant. Story 3. I can't forget Cynthia. She was introverted and had pretty dark skin. One day, the math teacher did what math teachers do and extended into a lunchtime. Alikuwa the typical mtiaji teacher. I believe they called them Blaina or something. We hated his guts. So, said math teacher sends a group of us to get his lunch from the office. We get there and there aren't any teachers in the office, just his food on the table. Ugali and some chuzi. Before we can get the food for the mblaining educator, the introverted and gorgeous Cynthia does the unthinkable and most un-Cynthia of things. She produces the most disgusting spit, the one aging grandpas conjure from their innermost core with a guttural sound. She lifts the piece of ugali and deposits the massive lump of an adulterated yak on the plate before placing the ugali back. She had just done the hoktua on ugali. We proceed to take the ugali to the unsuspecting teacher in the classroom, and he proceeds to munch on it heartily. Sick to your stomach? So was I. Cynthia, I often wonder about you. Story 4. There was this girl. Having lived some more after meeting and hanging out with her, and gaining more exposure, knowledge, and discernment, I realize now that she was a narcissistic psychopath. I can't forget her because I think that was the first time I ever met someone with mental, psychological disorders who looks perfectly normal. All the signs were there, but I didn't recognize what I was looking at. Looking back now, I'm just shocked. She had no conscience whatsoever, used everyone around her like toys and playthings. From us who were her friends to grown men with a thing for campus girls. Alikuwa anawatoanisha kuwatoanisha. A malicious criminal mind of immense proportions. Deceptively and disarmingly gorgeous. She was a model as well. Soft angelic voice. She used that voice kugonganisha watu kweli kweli and to ruin people's reputations. Bisexual with a body count of male proportions. She managed to pimp out 2 of our 7-girl group and introduced them to the escort life, convinced another one to pose for nudes as we watched, and also managed to engage her sexually. If she slept in your bed, by the way us girls are free with each other without thinking, utashtukia tu umeguzwa all over. Fearless girl, a real-life predator. People don't expect ladies to be creepy, but I can guarantee you hapo, I've met them. Even to some of us Bontao, she was on another level. She would steal your money and things if she had access, and then face you and try to gaslight you. And her weapons of choice were mind games and fire. The first indication was when she actually burnt someone's personal property as we watched. The other big one, I can't even say, staki maneno. That girl is an actual criminal. Nikushikwa tu hajashikwa. Very dangerous girl. I could say a few other things, but these are enough for now. She was brought up in Buru, lives in Kile now, ni flight attendant, divorced and has a daughter with a name starting with the letter P. Maybe you'll see this, maybe you won't. How's the Vumilia theory taking you now? Story 5. This one girl in my high school drank jig so she could go home. I'll never forget her. Story 6. Samuel Omuse from primary told me, Cheki, utakuja nikwambie kitu. He never did. It's been 7 years now. Your story bado inanisumbua. We finished class 8 and no one ever heard from him. I'm still searching for him. Story 7. Not a classmate, but childhood friends and neighbors. Mark, your mom is well and always talks about you. We all miss you, and by the way, I stopped carrying cats on my back. Mark, Rudy Jameni. Story 8. Yvonne Jerry. She was half Kikuyu on her mom's side and half German on her dad's. Whenever a teacher caned me, she'd cry. She protected me from bullies and did my homework and took notes for me. She asked me to be her boyfriend when we were in class 5. Last time I saw her was almost 10 years ago. Story 9. I met this girl and we started hanging out. I got to know her and really liked her. Then I started paying close attention to her body and noticed she had these neat horizontal lines all over her. I was super intrigued because they looked so cool. Turns out she was self-harming with a razor. I still think about her sometimes. I was actually in love with her because she was wired different. Story 10. Brian Onyango, aka Onyi, back in Aquinas High School. That dude taught me so many things. Styles za kuiba shirt on Saturday, link ya kwenda funky, kukatia mademu wa Huruma G, Pango na St. G, ngoti za Ebony pale computer room, how to create connections, na mawatchman ndio nipate vitu zingine kutoka nje, na kupeleka barua posta, kunifunza volleyball, hiyo yote in 1 year. Wherever you are, I hope you're winning in life, juu kama si yeye singe survive Form 1. Story 11. Jane Wangeshi Wambogo. She was in class 4 when I was in class 8. She was so full of life and so excited about everyday activities. She used to come visit me during class time, during breaks, weekends, and helped me fold clothes. She got diagnosed with leukemia and was admitted at Kenyatta National Hospital. Went looking for her but could not get them to part with her mom's number after realizing she'd left. Wherever you are, I hope you're okay. I really miss you. Story 12. A Tanzanian boy called Jay. Can't remember his second name, but I had a crush on him when I was in class 6. This was back when I showed love through bullying. One day, I confessed my feelings by giving him a necklace I bought during a school trip. That's my last memory of him. Story 13. His name was Caleb, and being a pastor's kid, he was very talented musically and would break dance like no one's business. Another was Alan, who drew comic-style stories. I wonder if he advanced his talents. He was way ahead of his time. Story 14. Anne Muthoni. She was brown and the most silent classmate and human that I've ever met thus far. I remember this one maths lesson, being made familiar about graphs and axes. Then we were all asked, what's the difference between horizontal and vertical? And we had to raise our hands to answer. I wish I trusted my guts. Otherwise, she was the sole person who got the answer right. She was the talk of the day. Story 15. Agatha Pale Campo. Man, she was awesome and pretty. I know she's doing great things for energy sector wherever she is. Story 16. She was called Essence. This chick was well off na, sijui why, but she would always find a way to come and sit with me, even though I wasn't that sura mzuri. But last time I saw her, she had a child, and I was shocked. Lakini, it is what it is. Story 17. Kuna wazimu primary, alikuwa anaitwa Keith. That guy was bright and funny and daring to the bone. Nakwambia, aliendanga kaiba mkate na mandazi on a Friday night. Wakakutwa wakapigwa senseless. After primary, huyo ndio singe predict pali angeenda, but very bright boy. Story 18. I was madly in love with her, Cynthia Muthoni. I loved everything about this girl. She was tall, na vile tall girls hukuanga na this air of poise and elegance around them. She was also smart. Hakuna kitu alikosa. We managed to become desk mates in class, and it was literally one of the best things that ever happened to me. I grew to love that name so much. At Pale High School, whenever we wrote letters, it was her name that I always wrote to. And whenever we wrote minutes, I used to make sure I gave her the secretary role. I made sure to make sure to get me a Cynthia in any way possible. If that didn't work, I'd create one myself in memory of the undying love I have for Cynthia, the idea, and the person. Story 19. I randomly remember classmates out of the blue and ask myself, how is X doing? Looking back, I appreciate the experiences we had when life was so simple. I hope each is doing well and life is treating them kindly wherever they are. I sometimes bump into one or two in person and there's usually never any meaningful conversation. Just a quick, sometimes awkward hello and everyone goes their way. Life moves on. However, there's one in particular. I had a deskmate from another tribe whom we never saw or heard from again after the December 2007 school holidays following the post-election violence. Story 20. The love of my life. God, I remember everything about her. Her smile, her scent, and everything about her are so fresh in my mind. The first time I saw her was in class 2. I had just transferred to where she was schooling. I'm almost 30 now, and I have never had anyone last this long in my mind. Sometimes I think it's infatuation. I had the chance to be with her, but it didn't work out, given that we were kids and all. But I still wonder, what if? Story 21. Mine is Shamim. She's Indian. She was my first ever best friend, and we were inseparable. We were in kindergarten together in Mombasa, kindergarten 1 and kindergarten 2, then class 1. After which, my family relocated to Nairobi. This was back in '07. I see her in my birthday pictures back when we were kids. Our teacher was called Teacher Janet. Over the years, she has been on my mind. I wonder if we'd recognize each other if we ever met. Story 22. I'm a lady, and I haven't forgotten a classmate by the name David Nyamoya. Dude, if you're still around, I'm so sorry that one time we were joking and I insulted you. It was in class 2 or 3, but I came to remember when I was older. Pole man, I may not remember his face vizuri, but I can't forget he had a burnt-like mark on one of his fingers. For reference, we were in Mashimoni Primary School. And that's all the stories we have for today. Some of you had some really deep ones, and I hope you find them, or at least, learn something about them. Anyway, guys, have a good day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in the next one.